Welcome to tonight's YouTube episode. I've brought on the infamous Janelle Clark since our video last time did so well together. And tonight I'm talking about how to diversify your client gallery, aka how to give your clients more for less. So ideally, the first thing you want to have to diversify a gallery is different studio sets, which at the Elite Ambition Studio, we clearly do. Secondly, you want to focus on lighting and focal length. For this particular set, I'm going to use 2 continuous lights because I usually have a videographer working with me. That makes it easier. And right now I'm going to shoot her on a zoom lens, which I have the Canon's RF 24-70 f2.8 on my camera, which is my staple lens. So typically when I'm shooting a piece like this, I like to stop up to about f4 for aperture. That way my model's face is still crisp and clean, but also all the accessories surrounding her, because this is such a unique set, remain quite in focus. Right now, because we're using a continuous lighting system, I also brought my light sits a little bit closer to her because, as you can see, if I move the light closer, it puts more of a spotlight on her, but you also don't want to blow her out in your highlights. So I like to operate at about here so that everything is in focus, crisp, clear, and colors are vibrant. So right now I'm going to switch lens from my 24-70 to my old school 85 EF lens. I have an adapter, so it fits on my Canon camera currently. And I'm putting on the 85 lens because if you know anything about photography, 85 generates a really nice portrait. And Janelle looks great on the pink couch right now. I really want to focus on her eyes because she's done a nice 90s makeup. So we're going in for some really crisp and clean portrait shots. They're impactful in a different way. And again, a really good way to diversify someone's gallery is using different focal lengths like this. Typically, when my students reach out to take my initial training, the 2 main questions I get are which camera body should I have and which lens. I, for photography, recommend the EOS RP. It is not a full body camera, but it is a high megapixel sensor and it is mirrorless. Why? So in my current lineup, we just talked about this, the 85. It is my staple portrait lens. I love that it is an EF lens. It has so much character to it, and the bokehs that I get in the background when I have it wide open are just unmatched. Second to that, I have an RF 50 millimeter 1.8. It is a macro lens, and I use this for close-up work when I want to get into some details. So maybe I'm shooting a tattoo being done close up and I want to see the needles penetrating the skin, or I'm shooting a makeup artist doing some makeup and I want to get into the finite details of what she's applying to eyelids. This is my go-to. I already talked to you guys briefly about the 24-70, which was on the camera when I started this episode. It is my staple lens. It is a good variety of focal length, and it's nice to have them all in one lens instead of continually switching lenses to go from 24 to 35 to 50 to 70. Primarily what I reach for when I'm doing something high fashion or something that I want to look more edgy is the Canon 15-35. This is also an RF lens. It's also a 2.8 aperture. I love coming down to a focal length of 15 because it gets way more in the scene, it fisheyes it, and it adds an element of character that is really different to look at. It puts a perspective through a different vision, and it's honestly one of my also favorite lenses. So I just threw on the 50, and it looks really good, but it's not quite the focal length that I'm wanting. It's just a little too tight. I'm gonna have to probably change this lens out. It is the effect that I want, but it's not quite what I'm looking for in terms of adjustability in frame. Your arms further behind you, just for one, and really arch. Yes, that's it. Yeah, I'm so tight on you right now, it doesn't matter. Chin down. All right, so we've thrown the staple 24-70 back on. The frame is looking good. I'm much wider, which is what I want because my vision with this to give her a diverse client gallery is I have her wearing patterns on a pattern, and I'm going to play with the rules of the game, meaning I'm going to be adjusting the crop on this image to go against typical photography rules of horizon lines. Actually put all your weight on your right hand only. Yeah, and bring that left hand up. There we go. That's the one I want. Right now, what I'm doing is switching to continuous lighting simply because there is too much reflection on the wall behind her from the diffuse flash. So right now I'm using the barn doors on this Godox light to control how much lighting is going onto the wall behind her. So I'm creating a barn doors effect. So she is basically the only thing illuminated in the frame. So right now I'm just diversifying her client gallery with poses. And anyone who's worked with me knows that I'm gonna put you in a ton of poses throughout your shoot because it is how we speak. It is how we change your gallery. Different poses look better on different people. So I'm just running her through an array of poses on this checkered rug so that at the end of the gallery, she is enamored at everything that we were able to create. So as you've seen, there are many things that you can do to diversify a client gallery. I've showed you a few juvenile, in my opinion, things, and there are so many more other things. Like I could get into having a long exposure to create light bleeds and paint with lights and a ton of other things you can do. But for today, I think we nailed it.
Oh yeah.
Always. And that's my tip to you, is just play around with different focal lengths if you have them available to you, different lightings, continuous, natural, flash, long shutter, and different patterns, because patterns create art. And that's my message. As long as you're out there shooting and trying, you're still ahead of the game.